everybody. It is Lee Milteer, and welcome. Today we have with us an extraordinary person, and his name is Jack Klemeyer. Did I get that right?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So let me tell you about Jack, because he's an exceptional guy and you should pay a lot of attention to him. And he has an extremely good book, which I just finished reading, which I highly recommend to everyone. And it's called Building to Excellence, a Guide to Building Authentic Success. That's very important.
Yes.
He has a co-author named Tommy Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about this book today, and I'm going to grill you, Jack, but let me tell everybody about you. He's written a number of books, and again, the one we're going to talk about is Building to Excellence. And I want to give you a little bit of background. He's a very well-known, respected professional speaker. He is the executive director on the John Maxwell team and is a certified John Maxwell coach, speaker, and trainer. He's very passionate about making his business and your business better. He founded the Grow Your Business Coaching to be a coaching company that facilitates high-impact, results-focused individual and group coaching for business owners and entrepreneurs, and that's who we are, business owners and entrepreneurs. He is a very sought-after presenter, and I've watched a lot of videos, and not only is he good, he's funny, which is always a plus being a speaker. He's a certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and a certified language and behavior consultant, which both provide unique skills to help his clients understand and change their behaviors so they can reach their goals. He has been a member of the National Speakers Association, which I was a member for, I believe, about 14 years. And he is the director of training for Business Network International in the Central Indiana region. He is, by the way, always known for wearing red socks.
Yep. Not very fashion conscious.
I think that's fantastic. I'm pretty known for wearing red cowboy boots, so
right.
That's perfect. So, Jack, as I was digesting your book, Building to Excellence, Building to Authentic Success.
Right.
One of the things that I really noticed that I liked was how you had used basically excellence as a gold building platform.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that Tommy's kind of a mentor of mine. He's 82 now, and last year he set a world record in bench press and deadlift. So he's a lifelong learner, and he's taught me a lot. And one of the things that when we went through the book, and as we were talking about the book, one of the things that he said, you can never reach perfection. And then just recently I saw a quote by Vince Lombardi that says, you can't catch perfection, but if you chase it, you'll catch excellence. And so, I think it's Earl Nightingale's idea of success is the achievement or the pursuit of a worthy goal. And so that's where we used excellence is how can you be excellent at everything you do? And it's a journey, it's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight, but that's the whole premise, is that you're building to excellence. You're learning from your failures, you're learning from your successes, learning from others, and you just grow and grow and grow.
So one of the statements I love in your book was, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And apparently in today's world, people do not understand this concept. So let's go into that a little bit, why they should have that mindset.
Well, John Maxwell says everything that we've done that's great has come from our failures. And so, there's some people that keep repeating the same things over and over again, and we know that's the definition of insanity. Sometimes I feel like I'm on that treadmill, but not always. But I think that only feedback. It's what you do with that adversity. What do you do with that setback? And Lee, I mean, just from following you and reading you, it's not what's going to happens to us all. There's one promise we can make every entrepreneur, business owner, salesperson, is that the yogurt will hit the fan. That's the one promise we can absolutely assure them. And it's what you do after that matters, right? And so what'd you learn? How can you grow? That's what matters.
Yes. I totally believe that. And I do believe that most of my major successes, particularly as an investor,
yeah, right. Yeah.
have come from my failures. And, or either my lack of vision or something like that. But I'm a big believer in understanding it's just data, it's just just information that, I am marching on.
And that's not to say, though, that it doesn't hurt, right? I mean, those setbacks, those failures, those things that happen to us, they hurt. We need to recognize that. I think the phrase is embrace the suck. It's going to suck. So embrace the suck, right? So yeah, okay, what did I learn? How can I grow? Let's move on.
Absolutely. So in your book, you talk about there are 3 things that hold us all back from achieving all that we have the potential of becoming.
Right.
And I know there are dozens of things, but we're just going to talk about the top 3 and in a little bit of detail, because I think this is such a basic, we're creating a foundation, and this is the time of year, to really kind of get our act together.
Right.
So I'll start you off with limiting beliefs. That's
one
of them.
Well, so that's where it starts, is limiting beliefs. We don't think we're good enough. We think we need something else. We don't think we are fully resourced for whatever it is. Those limiting beliefs, and those come from stuff that's either real or imagined. We could see somebody else and form our own belief from that. So if you think of beliefs like the legs on a table, then the belief is what's on top. And those little experiences, they happen 2 or 3 times, or we see them, or we imagine them even, which I think that's the kind of funny part, is when they're imagined, that forms a belief. And that belief then permeates through everything that we do. It's our BS system. It's our belief system, right? And that story, our belief system story, gets in our way a lot. Right.
So share with people how they get saddled with this.
Well, so they could be from one occurrence. It could be from watching a friend, a family member, a loved one, somebody close to them. It could be about hearing a story, how they get saddled with limiting belief. It could be something that just through their environment, who they hang around with, right? It just kind of became what was accepted. And it's hard to do real time, but that's why you have to take time to reflect and journal and think about, okay, what happened today, and where could I have maybe chosen a different path? It's easier to look back. Real time, we make the best decisions we can at the time, but you don't know how good it was until you reflect on it. And that limiting belief, there's a little exercise I do when I work with groups, and it's called the human billboard. And we draw out what your life is about. And I hear people say, I can't draw. I don't know how to spell. What color should I use? I don't know what colors. And so I talked to them afterwards about the reason why I wanted to do this is I wanted to start you to be aware of your limiting beliefs. Did you hear them? Did you notice them? Even though your dog does look like a fish, it's true, you can't draw, but still, did you catch them? Were you aware of them? And if we can just increase the awareness a little bit, and then from that comes and I have it in the book as low standards, but it's actually, I think, I've worked on this some since I wrote the book, and then the version 2 will have this in it, but I really think it's low expectations. Low expectations of ourselves, low expectations of others, and then what we expect we get, which then creates the standard, right? So the standard is the second piece. The expectation is the first piece. And if you have a low expectation, you didn't think you could do as much. I've talked to 2 of my clients this morning, and both said they had the best December they've ever had. And they said, last year we didn't think we could have a good December, and we didn't. And they realized that because of a difference in thinking and a difference in expectations, they had their best Decembers. Well, one of them said it was their best month all year, which was December, which is chopped up with holidays. And then the last one's an ineffective strategy, which means you're going about it wrong. You're trying to be nice, but you're cussing at everybody, or whatever the case might be. You start off wrong. But it all boils down to the big granddaddy in this whole scheme is that limiting belief, because it usually boils back to, trickles up to, I guess, a limiting belief somewhere. At least in my experience of coaching hundreds of people, that's what I've found. Yes,
and the other limiting beliefs, I'm sure you'll agree with, came from our parents, society, church, our neighborhood. You talk a lot in your book about who you associate with.
Yes.
And when I was growing up, my mother had this horrible saying. It was, if our ship would come in, we would be at the bus station. And
wow, a lot of presuppositions in that, right?
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
And even as a kid, I remember thinking, there's this belief that we're going to lose no matter what we do is very debilitating. My parents both were children of farmers and ranchers, which was nothing but you must just work hard and you must work 7 days a week and, 12 hours a day. And they were never exposed to any kind of materials like you and I create on a regular basis. And so their life was always hard.
Yeah.
And
right.
I think that today, if people really need, particularly business owners and entrepreneurs, they really need to look at that story they were told. And
absolutely. Oh, yeah, totally.
And just acknowledge that, your parents and the people around you were doing the best they could with the resources they had, but you don't have to stick to that story. Right.
That story was their story, and it doesn't have to transfer on unless you let it. Right. And it is the challenge is most people don't realize they have a choice in that. Right. They assume it's a default. That's the way it was for my dad. That's the way it is for me. That's the way it was for my mom. That's the way it is for me. And they don't realize that there's actually a God-given choice in there that you can say, wait a minute, it was for them, but I'm not them. I'm me. Yes, I have their DNA. Yes, I, have their blue eyes or whatever the case may be, but I'm not them. And I think a lot of people miss that. I've been doing a lot of writing lately and thinking on what I call the spirit of something. And so the spirit of something is how you think about what you do. People train on how to be a better salesperson or better speaker or whatever, but what they don't train on is the spirit of it, how you think about what it is you're doing. And when you get to that place where you're thinking about what it is and what thoughts do I have to make this be more apt to succeed, that's huge. And most people just say, well, I'm supposed to call somebody, and they just call them, right? And they don't think it through. Like before you said, I'm a real preparer, and that's cool. We all should be real preparers, but we're too busy. We don't have time or whatever other excuse we have.
Well, that is true. A lot of people wing it, and as a speaker, this to be true. They think that you get on stage and then you just somehow magically all this information and research and class and presentation skills just magically happen.
Yeah.
They forget the 10,000 hours of prep.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think we do too, as speakers or as change implementers as we are. I think sometimes we don't appreciate all the miles we've walked, all the journeys we've taken, all the times we've bumped our head or whatever the metaphor you want to use, that we can bring to somebody else so they don't have to do it.
Absolutely. So in the title of your book, A Guide to Building Authentic Success, I have to tell you, I don't think a lot of people, have a clue what authentic success really means, because they've been so programmed by other people what their success is. So, a lot of people see success only as material things or financial gains or things like that. But I really would like for you to talk about authentic success, because really that is almost the true purpose of interviewing you, is to try to get people to understand their uniqueness of creating their own success.
Yeah. What page was that on? No, I was kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Let's see.
Making our audience folks, our nice folks out there go, oh my God, what? Anyway, well, I think a lot of people.
It's actually on page 27.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Good. I'll look at that. No, but people have said, when about success is that it's about the excellence piece. It's about bringing everything you got to the moment. And if you think about John Wooden never saying to his players, John Wooden was a basketball coach, for those of you who don't know. He's from Indiana, by the way. You may not know that. But he had 10 NCAA championships in 12 years with UCLA. And one of the things he says is, bringing your best. And he challenged his players every day. Did you bring your best? Are you bringing your best? And that's a hard job, bringing your best every day. I mean, Don Miguel Ruiz in the Four Agreements, the fourth agreement is always do your best.
Your best.
And me too. That's a game changer, isn't it? Wow. But some days we don't feel up to it. We may have a cold, or maybe we have something going on in our personal life, or something we're just not hitting on all cylinders. But bring your best. Don't just slough off. you know, one of my clients this morning had the flu, and her husband said, for a minute there, I thought you were the flu. You bought so much into being sick, but I thought you were the flu. And I was like, wow. Did you just hear what you just said? You know, so we talked about that, about you know, you just had the flu. It was just it's just a little thing that's going to go by. But I think authentic success is that piece, just knowing you brought everything you can, everything you have to the moment, to the table. And it's goals, it's growing. It's that whole piece of I think increasing your awareness every day. I think that's the key piece of what that's all about. And then in the book we talk about how we make that up. A desire, which Napoleon Hill says the starting point of all greatness is desire. And then direction, where are you going to go? So who are you? That's the desire. Direction, okay, what am I going to do with these talents and gifts that I've been given? How am I going to get there? That's the discipline. What are my steps? Development is how I'm growing. And I think a lot of people miss that one. They don't take time to really grow. They just go, they don't grow. And then determination, that's that piece when the yogurt hits the fan, which I guarantee it's going to someday. What do you do? How do you keep going? And I think when you get those in place, then you have authentic success. You have that, but it's a conscious thing. It's an awareness thing of what you've put together to make it fit. And for each one of it's different, because we all have different goals. We all have different passions. We all have different directions. But in the book we talk about authentic success is those 5 Ds, and then it's the other areas around there. Your strategic. I mean, it's just, there's a picture on page 28 of what we use the metaphor of a house. Yeah, the house, and that's where in this chapter all that stuff is described in there. But so. And then at the bottom, you notice at the bottom of the picture, it says desire. It has now, then it has past, and it has future. And some of us are motivated by, we want to protect, prevent, get away from things. We want to escape something. And some of us are motivated by achievement, having. Many times that motivation from away from stuff is more of a motivator than the two stuff. But it just depends on the person, because we're all different.
So I totally 100% agree with everything you say. And the other thing that I think about authentic success, which you did mention, is it's what is right for you.
Yes.
Not too long ago, I spoke to this women's group, and I think women are really struggling sometimes because society projects upon them certain expectations. And, for some women, they're born to be mothers and traditional homemakers, and they absolutely love it. And then people like me, who not so much, are born to be, speakers and communicators and things like that. So I think we're often riddled and saddled with expectations of others. So for example, my mother really wanted me to be a traditional woman, and was actually very disappointed that I was born to be a businesswoman. I mean, at 12 years old, I had my first business. And, awesome. She was just baffled by that. So I just want to encourage everyone, whether you want to be an investor or a coach or an author, or, whatever you're doing, whatever your heart calls for, that is where your authentic success will come. Yeah. Because you're supposed to be using the skills and your natural talents that you have.
Yes.
And all of us sometimes are trying to force ourselves to use talents that we don't have. Like, I'm not a real tech person. I'm not an accounting person. If I had to do those things all day long, I would be like a dismal failure.
That's the challenge with most folks, is they focus on what they're not good at. Like, they'd be like, typical person, not anybody in our audience, but a typical person would be someone who says, well, I'm not very good at accounting. I'm gonna go take an accounting class. I'm not good at tech, so I'm gonna go take a tech class. Well, no, if you're not good at that, find somebody else to do it. If you can't afford it, trade it out with somebody. There's ways to get that stuff done, right? But don't focus on that stuff, because we both know from the law of attraction, the more you focus on what you don't want, the more you're going to get of what you don't want. And I think that's so true. Is this the, you know, I can't remember who said it, but they said the greatest day in our life is when we find out what we're really good at and how can we use it. You know,
Yes.
we discover that gift, right? And like you did, you know, at 12, you were a business person, and then you're a great communicator. And it's just a little aside, but as far as women go, I think you're an awesome woman. But that's probably the wrong mindset that I have there, in a non-politically correct way in this day and age. But I wouldn't have made that differentiation in you. I just think you're I wouldn't have made that differentiation like you did. I wouldn't have made that differentiation. So I would say you're still a traditional woman, but maybe my mindset's screwy. I don't know. That's just me.
It's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
It is what it is. I am what I am. And what I've really learned to do in life is leverage the talents that I have.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that to me is authentic success, is that I know I'm a good communicator and I'm a good writer and I'm a good speaker and I can do media, and that is my little slice of pie. And everybody has a slice of pie of their natural talents.
Well said.
And if they set the right goals and they have the right mindset and they can clean their act up and get rid of the head trash, then they have a great chance of really succeeding in a huge way. So I really want to get into goals because I love this quote from Ben Franklin you said in your book on page 31.
Don't waste time.
Don't waste time, because time is what life is made of. And then John Maxwell said, don't manage your time, manage your life. I think that is profound.
Yeah. Yeah. I, you know, in working with different corporate folks, they're always after that work-life balance. And there is no such thing. You have to get from the life part, if you will, things that bring you as much joy as the work was tedious or tiresome. And it may be an hour of walking with your partner. It may be an hour of reading. It may be drinking coffee, or it might be whatever it is. Hey, that looks like a good book. I think when you do that, when you find those things that refresh you, I think sometimes one of those things that we've been imprinted with, to your point earlier, is we get guilty. Well, I can't take time to go for a walk because I'm not doing anything. You know, I'm not producing. I'm not whatever. But if that recharges your batteries, take a walk.
I believe everybody, and Brian Tracy and I have spoken on many stages together, and he says that every good entrepreneur and business person should take 1 hour a day to think. And that, you know, before we should spend more time on planning than actual execution, just because it's the planning that's going to help us. And of course, planning is part of the goal setting and the excellence that you talk about. And you used FRAME as an acronym in your book about tools that are needed for successful goal setting.
Yeah.
And I'd like for you, I want you to talk about that. And I also want you to talk about the 3 kinds of goals, process goals, sub goals, and end goals.
Yeah, I will. So the fantasize piece, the F in FRAME is fantasize. And that came from, I remember in a long time ago, I don't remember what it was, but in talking to Jim Rohn, I could still hear his voice saying, take a few minutes now to, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What do you want to see? What do you want to become? What do you want to give back? And that's that fantasize piece. And on page 75 in our book, there's a sheet that is there for a reason. And as a matter of fact, I will, if it's okay with you, I'll make a goal setting guide that we have that's an accompanying to this book. It's this book, but it's about setting goals. But I'll make that booklet available to your listeners if they want. I'll set up a site for a free download for you for that, because I think that's just that thinking about all the things that you want. And it amazes me on that sheet on page 75. There's probably 100 blanks on that sheet. I think there's 4 columns. And when I sit down with somebody, or when I'm doing this as a group, most folks can't get enough things written halfway through the first column. They haven't thought about the possibilities of what if. They haven't thought about what could be. They haven't thought about that. And I think that's just tragic, because I think there's more for you when you're ready for it, but it doesn't just come to you. You have to work for it, right? And the reality, some of those things can become a reality. So once you go through that whole brainstorming session or brain dump, whatever, then go back and pick 2 or 3 of them that you want to work on. That's the R part. And then the aim piece is be more specific. That's when you start using the SMART stuff to bring it all together. And then think about what's your first step? What am I going to do? I've noticed in coaching when someone says, I'll commit to this, I've noticed they've already started making a list of why they can't. They already have their barriers. And so I've started asking them right up front, what might get in the way? And it's amazing. They have the answers to that. And so I used to get disappointed when it come time to see, okay, did you get that done? And they'd say, well, no, and I'd be disappointed. But now I ask up front, and we're achieving a lot more because of that simple little question. And then evaluate, are my actions, are the things that I'm doing, I think this is probably from Zig Ziglar, but it gets me closer to or further from my goal. So it's the old thing about set a goal, take action, right? Notice your trajectory. Notice if you're making progress. Change what you need to change, and keep going. So that's where the frame piece comes in. It's just kind of a different way to put it all together in the goal setting piece.
Well, I really like that. Jim Rohn also said the ultimate reason for setting goals is to entice you to become the person it takes to achieve them.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure you've seen this. We're very goal oriented, and people who aren't in our world in the entrepreneurial, own their own business, who I call civilians. And I don't mean that with disrespect. It's just that, there's a difference in the wiring between an entrepreneur and people who work for like a large corporation.
Yeah,
and I spent many, many years working for like AT&T and Ford Global and Walt Disney and NASA. And so I'm very familiar with, the structure of that. But a lot of people talk about writing goals, but they just can't seem to get it out of their head and get it on paper. You talk a lot in this book about literally, if you don't get it out of your head, it's never going to show up in your life. So let's go into that a little bit, because I really want to urge people to actually schedule the time to take the framework of this excellence, building to excellence in your book, and actually write some goals that not only inspire them, but actually they achieve.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that the piece, it was 3M said, of course they would say this because they're the Post-it note people, but they said if you write your goals down, you're 47% more apt to attain them. Right?
That's a great percentage.
Yes. Yeah. So there's all kinds of proof. Also with taking notes versus typing on the computer versus handwritten, your retention is much higher if you handwrite, just because of the kinesthetic connection. But I think that you have to take time to write down your goals. Mine are in my journal, and then I put them on my calendar on the wall. Then I put them in I still carry a paper planner, because I want to see the whole week. I want to see what's on the front end and back end of this next assignment. On your phone, you just see, I'm going to talk to Lee, but I don't know what's after that. And so I want to see that whole big thing so I can manage my energy better, because I think for me, it's all about managing my energy. How can I stay on my game more than not? So how do I structure my day? But that goes back to having a daily routine, right? So just to know, here's what's coming up. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where the day's going. So I think that's a key piece. And then writing them down, I think that's just important. I'm not sure, but clarity, if they're not written down, they're not clear, because your mind will change how you think about them in different ways. And we'll go back to that limiting belief, low expectation, or ineffective strategy, right? So for certainly not writing them down is an ineffective strategy, which then creates a standard because of the expectation you didn't think it was going to happen, which then ends up being a limiting belief. So yeah, it just all plays on itself, which it's funny how much of this stuff is all interconnected, that it's amazing to me.
And we're such self-fulfilling prophecies that, when I'm writing goals, if one of the things that I notice as I'm writing them, that as I write the goal, I don't feel good, we're visual auditory and kinesthetic all at the same time. But
Right.
if I, if there's some kind of feeling like, oh, that's not going to happen, I suddenly know that this is my guidepost to, I either have head trash about this, or I have some hidden belief, or already I feel anxiety about the goal.
That's great
And
insight.
and we have enough anxiety. We don't need to have goals
Yeah,
as our anxiety.
exactly.
So
Well, I think I think this, I mean, I think that just goes back to those different kinds of goals, right? Because there's a process goal. So maybe the goal you were writing down was too big of a bite. Maybe there needs to be a couple of process goals, milestones, steps along the way on the path of achievement, so that you can have that bigger goal. And so I do that sometimes too. I think bigger, and it's not that it's a bad goal. It's just that I need to grow into that some. I need to learn something different. I need to change my behaviors in a way, which is another whole layer of fun, to change your behavior, right? To try to achieve that goal. So I think that what that said to me was, oh, she set a goal that's probably an end goal. She needs a process goal in there, a smaller step, another step, but it's okay. Another step is fine.
Well, I actually think in goal setting, the more steps that you can actually put in there, that it satisfies the left brain, the part of your brain that's the critical part, and everything. The right brain is like, oh yeah, we can do anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
No problem. Piece of cake, won't take any time.
Yeah.
No hesitation. But the left brain's like, not so much. You're going a little too fast for me. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about in your book was focus. Yeah, focus. I'm actually working on a chapter right now in a book I'm working on focus, and I'm really finding that the new technology of our life, the smartphone isn't making us so smart. I'm watching reality, and I'm particularly watching very young people who have zero focus. Or the focus is just to the phone. I happened to watch a movie the other night where this young man said to this girl he was dating on his first date, he goes, oh, by the way, what did you read? And then there's this long silence, and she goes, my phone.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I just burst out laughing because I'm like, that's just reality. That's reality.
True.
So let's talk about how people can get focus and how important it is, because you do say that it is a very big ingredient in building excellence.
Well, it is. I think part of that is reflection. I don't think in this version of the book we called it out. But there is focus, and there's time to focus, and that's, if I have an Achilles heel, it's like, oh look, shiny something, squirrel. It's just if I have an Achilles heel, it's that focus piece. That's the piece I being totally transparent, I struggle with that sometimes, because like you said, there's so many things I've got. Clients and projects, and a book I'm writing, and a lunch and learn guide I'm creating. And that focus piece is just darn hard for me. I just usually put on some music and get in a different state. I try to get in a different emotional, mental state when it's time for me to focus. And that takes a little while for me to do. I have to slow this chunk of putty down and make me, make it say, okay, you got this, calm down. It's a lot of positive self-talk. It's a lot of, I don't know. So that's my take on focus. How do you focus? How do you do it? I would love to hear that. Not to throw this back at you, but there you go.
No, I love focus. Focus is one of my actual strengths in life.
Oh, great.
So one of the things I do when I want to focus on things is I put it in a compartment.
Yes.
So I clear, so you can't see it right now, but my office is many, many baskets, and each basket is a project.
Oh.
And so I corral things into one place, because most people spend most of their life looking for things.
True. Yeah.
So I have sections of bookcases of different projects that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And I'm always working on 5 or 6 projects at the same time. I always clean my desk. Just before I start a project, I clean off all the other stuff, because all the other stuff is is taking up room in my subconscious mind. It's trying to get my attention, and it's as you're working every day at your desk or your workstation, this is, and I I have a sign on my door when I am writing or really focusing. It said, unless there is blood or fire,
I
do
like that.
not interrupt me. And people really have learned the hard way from me that if you interrupt my creative thought and it takes me 20 minutes or never to get back to that thought, I am not a happy girl.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of really what I call brain downloading. As I think of it, I want to get it right on, I want to get it on paper. So the other thing about focus is I really script my day. I used to work in the television industry. I've had several television shows, and we had, as Walt Disney would call them, storyboards.
Yeah.
And so when I write my books, I pretty much get up at 4 to 4:30 in the morning, and I have between that and 9 a.m. when my staff comes in to have no phone calls, no staff interruption. Now, by the way, I go to bed very early to be able to do that. And
Me too.
it's a sacrifice I am willing to make because of that uninterrupted time. And every morning that I do that, Jack, I am now training my subconscious mind that my creativity will come to me at that time.
And that's a big thing right there. I think my speaking game jumped when I relaxed and realized I've got this. It doesn't mean I didn't prepare. It doesn't mean I didn't take hours and hours and hours. But I think that is so true, is that when you acknowledge that now's the time for my creativity to show up and you just relax and let it, it's amazing what happens. I totally get that. Totally get that.
And I love it that you said, particularly speaking, relax, I've got this, because I was on stage last fall, and I don't really like PowerPoints speaking because they put people in a trance. So I'm an old school person. I'm using a visualizer. It also allows me to shift at a moment's notice. And anyway, everything goes down. The electricity goes down. It was a relatively small group, so I could speak without, electricity. And the feedback that I got from people was, how did you shift out of this presentation that you? And I said, I never shifted out of it because I never got into it had to be this way. That once I know my stuff, I trust myself enough to just let myself go. And just free flow. And I have fun doing that.
Yes, I do too.
And years ago, I did public seminars where there was very structured, agenda. And I really disliked that because it felt boring to me. That if I had to do the same thing the same way, 2 days in a row, I was bored, and then the audience would be bored. So I'm a big believer in focusing your life, telling people you need the time, scheduling the time in, and then programming that subconscious mind. So no matter whether it's you are doing research for anything in your life, and I'm big into researching and investments, and that takes time. And it also takes intuitive feelings. Like, is that really something I really want to invest in the future? So everybody should really spend a lot of time when they focus. All right.
Well, something that you said, Lee, this I want to call out when you said that to trust yourself and let go. And I think we're too uptight. We try to force the outcome. We try to make it happen. And in that space, when you're getting into that, I'm gonna say either mindset or mode, you can't force it. It's just to relax and let it. Right. And I think that's hard for some people to comprehend because they have to have that control. They have to have reins on it. They have to push it into the place. And it may work for you. It doesn't work. I've never seen it work. Right. It could work, I guess. You might be 1 in a million. But I think if you just relax and breathe and let it, more miracles happen that way.
I am totally with you, because I also believe in the fact that everything I've ever read, every interview I've ever had, every seminar I've ever gone to, every book I've ever is stored in my brain. And that if I call for it and relax and just let it come through naturally, then information will flow through me in a much more entertaining, more fun, natural manner.
Yes.
Than recently I went to this celebrity luncheon where the celebrity literally read her speech.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was literally boring
Yeah. That's
because
sad.
nobody signed up for her to read her speech, and she
Yeah.
made 22 grand for it. And I'm like, alrighty now.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
won't say who that was.
No, I wish I could suck that bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes, no, I'm just kidding. You don't want to be that bad. You don't want to be that bad.
Um,
Focus is a big one. Yeah.
so you talk in your book about motivation, and you say the fourth ingredient in motivation is belief, and we have talked about that. But how do you, Jack? I mean, how do you motivate yourself? I think that's a very important question because everybody motivates themselves differently. What motivates you? What kind of gets your blood racing and your excitement going?
Well, and the piece right after that is the importance of believing in yourself. And a couple of years ago, I was going through, maybe in 3 years now, I was going through just where I couldn't get myself back on track, right? I couldn't get that belief. I couldn't. And so I called a coach. I called one of the guys that helped me learn neurolinguistics. And I said, Klaus, I need your help. I don't know what I've done, but I've got myself in a corner and the paint's not drying. I can't get out of this room, and so we worked together for a couple of weeks, and it was amazing how that just kind of lifted my sales. It just bolstered my sales right back up, and sales, not cells, but like on a boat, sales, whatever. But I think that second piece is now I'm at a place where, kind of like we were talking before, is I just relax and say, there's a possibility, right? And if there's a possibility, what can I do to add to that possibility? How can I plus that? How can I be present and either be the vehicle for it or be the recipient of it? And so I'm open to whatever happens there. But I think that belief piece, and I still, we all have days that just, stuff doesn't go quite right. But I think that belief is that I can make a change. If something I say today is going to help somebody somewhere, something that I do today. We don't know what the ripple effect is of that pebble that hits the water, and I think that that's exciting to think about that. So, I used to not think I was a very good writer. And then somebody, they were making fun of me. They said, you write just like you talk. And I thought, people say I talk pretty good. Maybe that's good. Right. So I thought, okay. And then I got feedback from Scott Manning, who used to partner with Dan on a lot of things. I don't know if you know Scott or not, but he said, you're an amazing, you're an amazing writer. I mean, Scott, I palled around with Scott for a couple of years. He helped me immensely. I mean, he would send me notes that Jack, I believe in you. Jack, I see you growing. And that sounds silly because he's 20 years my junior, but he brought out of me something I didn't know I had. Right. So I think that belief is to have a coach, have somebody that sees you and believes in you. Right. And it can't be a partner or a spouse because there's too many other things going on. The bills do. This is, whatever the case might be. But you get that coach, you get that outside person that says, dude, you got it. Just go, go kick some ass. I mean, I should have cussed. Anyway, go kick some butt. Right. And so I think I think I'm pretty strong on that now, but I think that's that belief thing is the confidence. It's the thing to say. Lee says, Jack, would you let me interview you? And I say, yeah, interview me now. Right. As opposed to, oh, Lee, I've only written 4 or 5 books. It's not that big a deal, which I think 2 or 3 years ago, I probably would have done that. And I think it's just opportunity. Okay. We'll see what happens. That's where that belief is for me. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
It does, and you've touched on a really important point about everybody needs a coach, including coaches.
Oh yeah, especially coaches.
Especially coaches, yes.
Yeah.
I work with several coaches. I am a coach to many groups. I consider all the investment that I use investing myself with other coaches is polishing my own diamond, which allows me then to pass that on. I actually advertise that. If you were looking at my website about coaching, I talk about the fact that because I have had such phenomenal coaches and I continue to go to phenomenal coaches, that you're not just getting me as a coach, you're getting all of this accumulation of all these other people. So whether it's investing or tax or martial arts or, any of the many kind of different businesses that are out there, everybody who is anybody on earth who is making a difference always has someone who is helping them. And you talk in your book about the power of association, which would bleed into this about, how Scott Manning, who I adore, has, encouraged you. Not only do we need that, because we do have days of, I don't think I have brains, I have cotton candy, and nothing is working. We need someone who believes in us, that we respect, to be able to say, yes, Jack, you're doing great. Yes, you are a good writer. Because as good as we are, there's still little pockets of mind trash of somebody in your young life going, who do you think you are?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the reason why we need it is somebody to say, put your big girl panties on, Jack, and get it done. I don't know if you can see it.
I have that sign up here.
Right over here, there's a pair of like size 60 underwear. They're hanging on my wall for that reason. So that when I get down, I look at that and, I've got stuff around me that's kind of a visual anchor, but there's a big pair of men's underwear that's probably size, they're huge. But put those on. Let's go to work, and sometimes I need somebody to hit me to say, put those on, because I don't have the strength to do it myself, to your point.
Okay, so that leads right into, you're like psychic, leads into my next thought about the whole point of self-talk.
Oh, wow.
Our self-talk is brutal. Yeah. I mean, we would never allow other people to talk to us the way we talk to ourselves. And because I totally believe we're self-fulfilling prophecies and that we're talking to ourselves so bad. So share with our audience how important it is about their self-talk, self-esteem, self-image. Yeah.
Well, I think I've said this before, but it's everything. Everything we've talked about. That's everything. It's everything. There's a quote, and I can't remember who it's by, but it says, there's two quotes. One is, if you don't like what's going on, change the channel, right? So just go think about something else. But there's another quote that says, be careful what you say because you're listening. And right. And so I tell people, watch your labels. So let's say we're going to have this call and we say, this is going to be a very intense call. We've just labeled the call. It's going to be an intense call. Sometimes we say this is going to be a really hard client. We just labeled the client. So that is self-talk in itself, because that's how we just let out a little bit of how we perceive whatever the issue is. So I tell people, watch your labels, because the way you tag something, the way you label something is how you're representing it to yourself. And you need to make sure, am I representing it in a way that I have control of or that I'm aware of, right? But I think that self-talk piece is so huge. There, a friend of Tommy's and mine, Julie Ness, in Dallas, she talks about the 4 mindsets, and two of them are internal dialogue. One is the monkey mind, where it's always chattering. It's always, you can't do it, you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And that's our parents' voice or somebody close to us voice telling us we heard all the time. It's like if our ship had come in, we'd be at the bus station, right? We hear that. That's the monkey mind. And the way to get that to stop is just to say, shut up. Just, and I've been places before where I just go, shut up. And people look at me like, who are you talking to? But it's okay. I got the monkey mind to shut up. The second one is the intimidated mindset. And that's where we think whatever it is bigger than what it really is. In the movie Hoosiers, there's a great scene where Gene Hackman takes the team. So Indiana basketball, right? So it's got to be about basketball. So Milan was a little bitty school in Indiana in the late 1950s that before we had a class basketball system, class not meaning classy, meaning AA, AAA, number of students in the school. But Milan was one of the smallest schools, and they became the state basketball champion. And when they went into the field house, it was in a great big building. And the first thing Gene Hackman did is he had the boys measure from the free throw line to the baseline. How much does that measure? And he goes, that's the same as we have back home. Measure from the floor to the rim. They measured that. He says, well, what's that? Same as we have back home. He says, boys, I think you'll find every dimension on this floor is the same we have back home. It's just in a bigger building. And so with that little exercise, he just defeated the intimidated mindset, because those boys, when they walked in there, they were like, oh my God, as they leave that scene, you can YouTube it. But as they leave as that scene leaves, Hackman says to the assistant coach, it is a big place, isn't it? I mean, it was an intimidating, because they'd been in a little bitty gym, and now they're in this great big auditorium. So the two mindsets, or two self-talk things I think to think about. One is the monkey mind, which is just constant chatter, always talking, always tearing us down, telling us we can't, not good enough, all that stuff. And then the second one is the intimidated mindset, which is that mindset that tells us, approaching this client, approaching this prospect, negotiating this deal is bigger than what it really is. And I think and then we get scared. And we shut down because we're scared of it. And I think that's what you got to be aware of. I'm in the intimidated mindset right now. I need to get out of this. I need to go. That's when you go back to basics, which is the determined mindset. That's when you say, okay, first thing I got to do is meet and greet. And then I got to ask questions. And then, so you go back to basics, and that helps you get through that process. But if it's not scripted, if you don't have it like your daily agenda, if you don't have that down, then you just kind of wander around looking for what will fit the space. And it may not be the best thing that'll fit the space.
Also, you're reacting to whatever's happening versus really focusing in on what the most important thing is today. So every morning of my life, I have a very early meeting, hopefully on the phone, with my staff, because I'm at home right now and I really work from home, and my staff is in a real building. But we get really clear what is the most important money-producing, client-serving activities of the day, and then the other stuff will just fill in. I mean, because there's always, no matter what you're doing, there's 100 emails of, I call annoyance.
Yeah, right.
They're time sucking. They pull us off our base. They actually, it's going down rabbit holes. We're going, there's some people, no matter what you do, they never feel like they're quite got answered, and they're always trying to, bother us with more information.
God bless them.
God bless them. Absolutely. So while we have a little bit of time left, you talk in your book about mission and vision statements. I would say the average person probably has never created a vision board or written a mission statement. And I have every vision board I've ever done. I'm proud to say that 95% of anything I have ever put on my vision board has become a reality.
That's awesome.
And whether it was a house on the beach, or a certain kind of car, or a certain jewelry, or best-selling books, I mean, I am a big believer in that what we visually see, what we associate in our mind is that I am a self-fulfilling prophecy. I had better daggone well put up visions that inspire me to that place. So speak on it so people would get excited about taking the time this year to do that.
Well, one of the things my family and I did 2 years ago, and we did it last year too. We haven't done it yet this year, and I don't know why. That just rang a bell for me. It's like that wasn't written down for us to do, but we did a vision board as a family. What we do as a family, what John would do, he's my 15-year-old, what Libby would do, 16-year-old, what Kathy would do, she's my wife. And then at the end of the year, we looked back and said, okay, well, how many of these things did we accomplish, And we looked at it throughout the year too, but I wanted to make a point of showing them how that when it was written down there, we got these things done. Like John wanted to be on the football team, and then he was on the football team. And then, Libby wanted, I forget what it was. I mean, there's some stuff that she had down there. But it was so cool because when the kids would have their friends over, they would say, look at our vision board, look at our vision board, and it made me think, wow, this is bigger than what I think it is. This is a bigger deal. And so thank you for the gentle kick in the butt to get that done this year. But I think that me too, the stuff that I've put down, there's 3 things that I keep putting on there that haven't shown up, but I'm not taking them off. I'm not acquiescing I'm not giving in to that it can't happen. But there's 3 little things on there that have shown up over time. But I think that key piece is, if you can't see it, if you can't in your mind wrap your arms around it, smell it, touch it, feel it, it's less apt to happen. I mean, it could, but it's more fun when you've thought about, I want this, and I want to feel like this when I see it, and then when it happens, it's just like, wow, this is so cool. I mean, we were given that ability by the almighty universal power, whatever you want to say, to no other creature on the earth can do stuff like that. And we're able to, take a thought and move it down the line to have it all of a sudden one day be a hammer, or be a pen, or be whatever. And Doesn't mean we have to make that one, but it means it'll show up. And if it's not on your radar screen, on your vision board, then it may show up, but the reticular activating system won't engage. You won't realize, hey, that's my opportunity. That's my time to go there. You know, you were on my vision board, believe it or not, 2 years ago, just to think I would love to figure out how to work with her. Right. I have no idea how that would be. And then all of a sudden, here we are talking, you know, and so John and Libby asked me last night, they're like, Dad, how did you get this interview with, you know, Lee Milteer? And I'm like, well, it's kind of funny, guys. And so I told them about it. They're like, wow, that's cool. You know, as we were going to get dinner last night. So,
wow, I did not know that. That's quite flattering.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah. But I think we met at a super conference probably, I don't know, 5 years ago. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And I just said, you know, I made a point to say hi, and just, that's somebody that I want to associate with. I'll figure out how over time. And it's been 5, 6 years, whatever, but here we are. Right. And so if I would have said, that's not going to happen, thrown it away, right, that wouldn't happen. But I think that before you judge it, try it. That's what I would say to our listeners. Before you judge it, try it. Put it out there.
I totally agree. And in my different groups, I've had people do, and they're all business people. I mean, some of these people are earning $20 million a year, and I'm making them sit down and go through magazines and pick out things that they want. And they're going, this is so childish. And I go, just humor me. Just do this. Yeah. And then I followed up a year later, and every single one of the naysayers wrote me back and said, oh my Lord, this actually worked. I got the boat that I had put on my vision board. I got the, you know, relationship. I got the body. I got the thing that I wanted, and I didn't realize I had actually forgotten about the vision board. I stuck it up in some place and forgot about it. I'll tell you this real quick story. I was in a really bad space at a time in my life where I didn't know where I wanted to do. And I went to see Zig Ziglar on stage. And I had this epiphany that that's really what I was supposed to do with my life. Is I was supposed to be a speaker. And I put a picture of Zig Ziglar and Lee Milteer. I kind of jerry-rigged it and put it up on, you know, on a picture. 13 years later, out of the blue, on a Sunday afternoon, the Zig Ziglar organization called me and said, would you like to go touring with Zig Ziglar for the next year?
Wow.
And I had never contacted them. So please don't give up on those few little things. I just kept, every year when I do a vision board, I just kept saying, well, I'm just going to put that up there. And after they called me, I was fascinated and flabbergasted that I hadn't taken physical action towards the vision. But it all manifested. And there's a lot of mysterious miracles that happen on earth if we will just work with the tools that we have right now to make them work.
And those things are happening all around us. If we're not tuned into it, we're not aware of it, right? We miss it. And so absolutely, you're right. Totally right.
So tell people the best website to find you, and we will have this, you know, in our reports and all that, but
good. Yeah. So it's go to GYB, green, yellow, blue. It's not what it stands for. It stands for Grow Your Business Coaching.com/books. And that's where you can get, 2 of my books are listed there. This one and one on networking, how to be a better networker. And then I'll set up GYBcoaching.com/goals for that goals guide that accompanies with this book, and you can have that for free.
Okay, that is fantastic. And Jack, this has been a delight.
Me too.
I remember meeting you a long time ago, and you know, I just saw you on social media one day, and I went, Jack is the perfect person that I want to interview next. Just out of the blue.
Awesome.
And I immediately, this is something I always do. When I really get a inspiration, to do something, call someone, make a sales call, whatever that inspiration is, I feel like there's something guiding me, and I always follow those inspirations. And I will tell you, it has worked out perfectly today for us.
Good.
And
Awesome.
we want to thank you profusely for being here today. And again, folks, this is one of those books that you can read in a very short time, and short books are really good for us. I always tell everybody in my coaching group that you should read 10 pages of a good inspirational book every single day of your life. That'll pull you out of a funk. It'll, kind of refocus you, to remind you. It'll get you excited. And once you're excited, then you will take action. And action is really one of the biggest keys to success.
That's it. It's all about that. Yeah. Lee, thank you so much. I thank you. Just sincerely, thank you very much. Very grateful.
Well, my great pleasure. So we're going to call it a wrap. Thank you very much.